Assalamualaikum and good greetings. So today I'll be watching a video by Jaden titled Why I Am No Longer Christian, Leaving a Religion. So from the title I'm assuming this person not just leaving Christian but leave religion altogether. Well, without further ado, let's watch.
So, as you guys can see by the title, I'm going to be talking about why I am no longer Christian. For some of you that know me better, you might feel like this is kind of an abrupt thing to say or something that you maybe didn't expect, but honestly, this has been a really long time coming for me. And I thought it'd be really interesting to just share a little bit about my experience and what led me to this point, and a little bit about my background and sort of what I believe now. The first thing I want to look up is what the definition of religion is. The dictionary says the belief in a worship of a superhuman controlling power, especially a personal god or gods. It can also be defined as a particular system of faith and worship, a pursuit or interest to which someone ascribes supreme importance. Okay, so now you know what the definition of religion is. So basically I want to start from kind of the beginning and just give you guys a little bit of a background. So I did grow up in the church. I grew up non-denominational evangelical, actually I think my actual church is Assemblies of God, so it's sort of a non-denominational, sort of an open church. You know, there aren't a lot of rules to it other than you really focus on the Bible. That is, you know, kind of the main point is like the Bible is what they go off of. They believe in Jesus. They believe that if you repent and you give your life over to the Lord, then you're saved. This is like my perspective of what it meant.
When Christian says non-denomination, what does that mean? Because meaning, is it denomination, meaning those that classify themselves as something, and then non-denomination is those who do not? Because wouldn't that become a denomination by itself, or I don't know. So any of you Christians do share what does that mean exactly?
Being Christian in a non-denominational church, they do speak in tongues, and there's a lot of like worship is really emphasized in this sort of church. You know, I did enjoy it. That's the thing. I loved being a part of a community. I loved having friends and having something that we all believed in, and knowing what my future held. And you know, there was this idea that there's so much more, and where we are now is only temporary, and you know, eternal life and all of this. And you know, it spoke a lot to me because I do have a lot of anxiety, and I felt a lot of connection knowing that there was more for my life. The part where I started to really disconnect, because I'm not going to go into a lot about my church or what, you know, if there was any big thing that happened, because there really wasn't. But I think the more as I started getting older, I started to like question things more, you know, and I started to have beliefs that didn't necessarily align with the church. You know, a non-denominational church, evangelical, it's very big into teaching other people about God and not converting other people. They don't like to say that, but it's like making other people know the truth, you know? I feel like it was really hard.
Non-denomination evangelical, I don't know, because I'm trying to understand, perhaps due to not knowing what those words stand for in terms of specifically Christian reality.
Hard for me to have open dialogue with people, and now looking back, I feel like I had a lot of fear, and you know, I kind of felt like, oh my gosh, if I believe these things, like God will know, and you know, I don't want to go to hell. And that is a big part of it, is like I felt like it was really fear driven. They even say that in the Bible. It's like fearing God and knowing he's kind of the ultimate one. I don't know, as I got older, I started to realize that really wasn't for me. I don't want to fear the belief to be fear driven.
That is interesting for several reasons. One, most Christian that I know of, or you know, I communicate with, do not specify Christianity or associate Christianity with fear driven. Most of them says it's love. Basically, it's very loving, lovey-dovey based, right? Not to say in a condescending way, but meaning it's always love and love and love, right? That love God loves us so much that so and so and so and so, and we love blah blah blah, right? It's quite rare for me to obviously then Christian would say because she already left, then she's saying this and this is not true Christianity, maybe. That's number one in terms of someone associating Christianity with fear driven. Second, that logic itself, in the sense that when you see, for example, any religion, in this case Christianity or the Bible, says that fear God or fear hell punishment, right? Does that necessarily means that it is fear driven, and then it necessarily mean that it is bad or not good or negative? Does that follows? Or for example, because this kind of discussion somehow like there's a assumption or presupposition that all of this is not true. It's just that it is a way to make people comply or submit, right? So in this case, it is being labeled fear driven. Why? Because fear of that punishment that awaits if you do this and this and this becomes, meaning you look at it and you judge the religion. This religion is based on fear, right? Because if you see in this real world, right, if you see any warning, beware, high voltage electricity or landslide or whatever, and that is actually a reality, would you use that word? Oh my god, this is so fear driven. Why are they put this sign, be careful, warning, whatever, high velocity, not high, whatever, right? Maybe you live beside the train track where the high speed train pass by, and then there's a warning about on the fence, do not cross or whatever, danger. Would you say that is fear driven? Because I'm interested when people say any religion, whatever religion, that warn you of something. This is fear driven. Shouldn't you fear that consequences if that is real? Because for me, the first question is that real or not? Are you saying about something that is actual fact, real, or is just someone say something just? If that is the case, then it is fear driven in my book. Anyway,
I don't want to be scared. I don't want to be believing in something because I'm afraid I'm going to go to hell. And like going back, actually, hold on, I'm going to go back really quick and mention to you guys.
Okay, that what she said there is interesting, right? I do not want to believe in something just because I'm afraid to go to hell. I'm not sure if there is any religion. I'm not sure if even Christianity, because I do not know, use that logic, meaning that you have to believe in God or whatever, otherwise you go to hell. Of course, Islam doesn't say that, obviously, because it is the what is being said is different. Like once you believe the truth, meaning you cannot deny anymore. This world is created. There's a creator that told you or sent revelation, and based on this, you are asked or you are commanded to submit. And if you do not submit, after this so clear, this is the commandment from the creator, you reject, you do not want to commit despite the evidence, then you will be punished, right? It's always in Islam, it's quite clear, it is like that. So it's not like fear. No, it's not like believe in this, otherwise you will be punished, right? Because that doesn't make sense. Because if I say something towards my student, right, believe in something, otherwise I will punish you, but that example doesn't work, right? Because in this case, it's if the claim is itself is not really true, right? Meaning that someone warns me of something that will never happen, he doesn't even have the power to do that, why would I be fearful anyway in the first place, right? So I do not know, because I think this kind of people criticize religion or any specific religion that by saying that it is fear driven. I'm not sure, because I do not know Christianity and she is talking about Christianity. But if someone says something similar about Islam, it doesn't work that way. Meaning that the message is not that way. It's not that you have to believe in Allah, otherwise we'll go to hell. It never. It's always proving, establishing the fact that you cannot deny anymore that this is the truth, this is the message from Allah Almighty. Now you have to submit and obey. If this is after this is all clear, you still choose to reject and disobey, then the punishment will come, right? So it is punishment for disobeying or choose not to submit, right? Not punishment for not, how to say, believe in something that you cannot even justify in the first place. That doesn't work.
When I was young and in middle school and kind of early high school, I was very avid at going to church. Like, I would go on Sundays, I would do Wednesday night youth group, I did like retreats, church retreats, I went on mission trips. So this is kind of to give you background on like how invested I was. Okay, so going into the next point, like, part of the reason I started not to feel as closely tied to the church, I mean, it happened over time, but when I moved to Colorado, which was a few years ago, and I got away from it more, was sort of when I just started like not feeling so connected to the church. But it's weird to say too, because even when I was in Colorado, I always tried to immerse myself like in church type groups or Christian groups or just, you know, things like that, which I also think is great because you do meet people and you form communities. And in Colorado, they were really cool. Like, I really liked the more progressive type of people, which I think can be harder to find in smaller towns, you know, and that's one thing. Like, I don't think every place is the same with their beliefs, but I do live in a smaller town, so people are a little more close-minded and, you know, they oppose more mainstream things and they're not as progressive, so that's kind of something to think about. But when I was in Colorado, that's kind of when I really like started to disconnect, you know, when I learned about feminism and just my beliefs started to change more and I started to question things and do more research and like think for myself. And going back to kind of the things that disconnected me from the church, I didn't, like, looking back now, I don't like that the judging people, you know, or believing people should do things despite what's going to make them happy. And I know that can be a really broad thing to say. It's like, well, you know, you think people should kill people or this. It's like, no, that's so extreme. But in terms of more of the social issues, I just didn't start to align with it anymore. And I know a lot of Christian people don't necessarily align with some of the really traditional social views that come from the Bible and things like that, but I just really did not align with that anymore. I didn't align with the hate, I didn't align with the we and they mentality, you know, love the sinner, hate the sin. I just felt like it was all very contradictory and it didn't feel right anymore for me. Okay, the next thing I didn't really agree with was the idea that you're never really good enough, or even if you're a good person, it doesn't matter because if you don't give yourself over to the Lord, you know, you won't be saved. That did not align with me at all, because I would, just in my head, I'm like, I see so many people who are Christian people who are not living that way, and to me that doesn't make sense. You know, if you can be living this life but then just saying, well, you know, I'm saved, or, you know, it's like you're doing all these things but putting this label and just saying, you know, well, I'm saved and I gave my life to God, but you're not changing your actions. To me, that doesn't line up. I also don't agree.
I wonder what Christian would say about that, because It is quite interesting in the sense that in my comments, when some Christian want to, how to say this, how to put this, want to make me think about Islam and consider Christianity. Let's say it that way, right? And the question that they pose is like, do you think you how meaning, because they want to make it seems contradictory in the sense that meaning different in the sense that Islam is based on us doing good to deserve heaven, something like that, the way they say it, while in Christianity basically we get it with the grace of God, or something like that, right? In the line of you're being saved by Jesus, basically, not by your action. But normally they still put the disclaimer, but you cannot just say you have to practice blah blah blah. But it still goes back to that. But you are saved, meaning when you are saved, you are saved. But at the same time, because I think they put that disclaimers because it can be anticipated that someone will say, so you can just be saved and then do whatever bad things and you still saved. So they put that disclaimer, or they say those who do that is not true. I'm not sure. So those kind of thing. But I'm not sure whether what she's saying here is based on the real experiences, or because experiences with people, you have to understand that different people of the same label act differently and you cannot generalize, right? So when she associate with hate, etc., etc., so perhaps the surrounding that she comes from have that hate, and we know that exists in many different religion, unfortunately.
Agree that people who don't know the Lord are automatically going to go to heaven or go to hell. You know what I mean? Like with the evangelizing, it's like people who don't know him are just going to go to hell. That that doesn't resonate with me at all. So another thing that I can go back to is kind of the way I used to think when I was really Christian. I was things that were taboo, I thought we were like kind of evil, like music that talked about Satan or like the devil, or tarot cards or fortune, karma, all of that. I always thought that was like evil, which now I just feel like is really ridiculous. But I used to think that, I used to be like, oh my gosh, it's so evil, like I could never, I don't believe in fate, I don't believe any of that. And it was just that fear inside my head that was like so scared about things. So yeah, basically things that were ungodly, I thought were bad. It's kind of ridiculous thinking about it now. And I know maybe my case is more extreme, but I just always had this fear that if I was adhering to these things, these worldly things, that God would know, what I was thinking, and things like that. Okay, so my battery almost died on my camera, so I just had to switch that quick. And another thing, going back, I know I'm really all over the place, but I'm just trying to kind of think about what is in my head. I'm really not trying to be all over the place. I'm just trying to explain to you guys how I'm feeling. And the other thing that I wanted to mention was with the thoughts in my head and like having conversations with people, is I always kind of felt like I had to speak my truth on what was right. I couldn't just have conversations with people and just be done with it and be like, oh, we have different beliefs, like, which now I can, because I'm a lot more open. Like, I just don't really think that way. I'm just like kind of live and let live. But back then it was like I always kind of felt like I had to like fight people, and not literally fight people, but it was just like I always had to like say my piece. Now I don't at all. I don't feel any need to do that. It's a lot more with my actions and how I treat people is what reflects the type of person I am and what I stand for. So I have a few stories about Christian people and sort of like my experience, but I think I was going to mention it earlier, but one of the first times I'd gone back to the church I grew up in a number of years, we had a guest speaker, and this is like the first time I'd gone back to the church in a long time, and I just was like, I was open to just going to a service, and I still am. Like, I still crave that community and wanting to meet people who are loving and kind and want to form relationships and be better people. I still want that, and I'm still open to that, whether it's in a church or not, or a different type of church, or just a community. I'm still really open to that. But it was so interesting, like, viewing this sermon as the person I am now. And this pastor was talking about burning in hell, and he was like talking about it like the whole time of the service, and I was just like, I literally wanted to start, I mean, I didn't want to start laughing, but I was just so appalled, because I'm like, oh my gosh, he's doing exactly what I think is so ridiculous. Like, this is literally happening, you know, and like everyone in the crowd is just like, oh my gosh, yeah, like this is great, you know, and I'm just like, I don't want to be worried about going to hell. This is not the drive for the reason I want to believe. I'm just like him fearing everyone into this, and that, you know, that's, if that's what you believe, and you believe in heaven and hell, that is totally fine. I mean, I understand, because it's pretty serious stuff. Like, I don't want to burn in hell either, but I don't really think that's in the cards for me. Yeah. Honestly, it's weird. Even when I was Christian, it was always hard for me to believe in heaven. Even before I kind of changed my beliefs fully, or, you know, my beliefs changed. I always kind of envisioned like a darkness, and maybe that is because of like my nursing background and knowing more about like science. But to me, I was like, it's hard for me to believe that there's more, and I'm not saying there isn't. I don't really know. That's something I'm figuring out. But I always imagined it like, when you die, it's just gonna be like nothing, you know, kind of like when you're a baby and you don't remember, you know, between, you know, until you're like a few years old, you don't remember anything. That's sort of how I imagined it. And
Okay, how many people are, regardless of they choose to leave religion or to stick with it, whatever religion that is in this state of mind where when they decide one way or another, it is still like, because it is not, I'm not sure, because personally maybe I can see how that is perhaps happening for many Christians, because they do not, meaning that the belief in that everything is created, and you know, those with that comes with that, and the fact that the creator is revealing something, and then it goes from there, because here it's like because from there, if that is, how to say, established, then heaven and hell, etc., comes from there. It would be a totally different discussion, right? Because because the way she sees, and of course we know she left already, but the fact whether that is the truth or not is not even the main, how to say, the main thing that is being evaluated to decide this or that. It's just like, we don't know. I think it is like this, but we don't know, right? And suddenly the concept of heaven and hell, blah blah. So I do not know how to comment this, but I think that's why the in Islam is the Aqidah come first, right? Because if it's nonsense, if it cannot be like, how can you accept this? How can this be the truth? There's a problem there. Then we do not need to discuss anymore, I think, right? Because it's falls short there, right? And I think in some of the comments before, when someone asked me, why do you end up being Muslim instead of other things, including Christianity, right? I do specify my methodology of evaluating the religions before ending up with the final conclusion. And because, especially in Christianity, it falls short in the Aqidah itself. Is like, how to make sense of that? How anyone can make sense of that? Because when that already falls, then you know, why would I consider what comes next when they say, but you have to, don't you feel the love, blah blah blah, right? But that itself falls short, right? So I don't know how people make big decision on this when they do not evaluate the biggest claim, but it's more on how I feel about it. It doesn't resonate, etc., etc. So quite interesting human.
I don't really know what is going to happen. I mean, no one really knows. I know people believe they know, and that's their own right. That's their own freedom to believe what they believe. Okay, so after going through all of that, I just kind of wanted to talk about where I'm at now and how I feel and what I believe. So at this point, I would say I still believe in God. I do believe in a higher power. I don't know if I could put a certain religion to encapsulate what I believe. I do believe in more, and that's one thing I always wondered, which maybe it's just me being like way too open, but I always wondered, I'm like, well, maybe everyone sort of believes in the same God, and maybe God doesn't punish us for believing in different gods. And I truly do think that people just need to do what's best for them, and there should not be so much hate around it. I mean, I have no hate towards Christians. I have no hate towards people who aren't Christian. The only people I have problems with are the ones who push their angry beliefs on other people, or, you know, or call people dumb, or are just rude about it and inappropriate and think they're better than other people. Those are the people that I have a problem with. And even with that, I mean, it's inevitable. It's a part of life. You can't change people, so, you know, that's life. I just want to be a more open and caring person, one that can learn and, you know, hopefully one day teach my kids to be this way and to think for themselves and to question authority and to, I don't know, not follow things blindly. It really is up to you, but I do think it's important to think about what you're doing and what you're thinking and why you think what you do. That's kind of where we're at today. I really hope this video kind of summed up why I would say I'm no longer Christian anymore, and I put it in these because I'm no longer religious. I just no longer align with that anymore, and I'm honestly really happy with where I'm at right now. I feel free, like there's a weight lifted off of me, and that's probably a point I never thought I would get to. I always thought I would be stressed and concerned about where I stand with God and things like that. So I really hope this video was interesting to you and informative. If you guys want to share below any of your experiences, feel free to leave a comment. As always, don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe below, and yeah, that wraps it up for this video. I really appreciate you guys for watching and tuning in. This was
Alright, so that's the end basically. I do agree what she says towards the end, that do not have blind faith, etc. But I consider that statement goes both way, right? Meaning that if you, because normally that phrase is used for those who blindly follow any religion, but it does go the other way also, right? Meaning that you blindly, meaning, oh, it can be this way, it can be, it's possible there, but I just blindly ignore, for example, right? That's kind of some blind, how to say, you moving forward in your big decision in life blindly as well. That's just my opinion. So what do you think? If you are Christian, what do you think about what she said? That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. See you next time.